Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Bill Crawford. I'm a psychologist, a speaker, author of 4 books, host of 2 PBS specials. And today I want to talk about the subject of anxiety, because I think it's one that a lot of people think about, worry about. I think it gets in the way of a lot of our success. And what most people don't know about anxiety is that it's actually a chemical change in our body. Those chemicals, for the most part, are adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. And so what happens is we will find ourselves thinking about a thought or seeing a particular situation or a person or some other trigger, stimuli. And we will then find ourselves becoming anxious about that thought or whatever situation we are observing. That's really not the problem. The problem is when we get anxious and when this situation is not a fight or flight situation. See, if we're in a fight or flight situation and we get anxious, that helps us either fight it or run away from it. But in life, when we're dealing with traffic and deadlines and difficult people or a thought about ourselves that maybe we're not enough, or some fear of being rejected or abandoned or failing in some ways, that also triggers the exact same chemical. But because we're not in a fight or flight situation, the chemical itself starts to become the problem. We become more anxious based on the chemicals of anxiety. That then starts to trigger a new reaction. Uh-oh, now I'm getting anxious about my anxiety. That triggers another round of chemicals, and we find ourselves trapped in a cycle of anxiety or stress, frustration, whatever you want to call it. What I encourage people to do in my books, in my seminars, and my working with them as a life coach, as a psychologist, is to begin to see that anxiety is a valuable signal, that something needs to change. As a signal, it can help us recognize that we may be holding on to a perspective. We may be interpreting a situation in a certain way. We may be having certain expectations about ourselves and the world that is actually causing the anxiety. So rather than some external person or situation causing the anxiety, or even some thought causing the anxiety, what we can do is say, okay, wait a minute, it is how I am perceiving myself in the world right now. That's the good news, because we can alter that perception. We can change that belief about ourselves in the world. We can change how we interpret ourselves and what we're looking at and or perceiving. We can change our expectations of what happens next. We can change them to the kind of beliefs, perspectives, interpretations, and expectations that we would teach to someone we love. See, I doubt that we would ever encourage someone we love to be anxious about a particular situation. We would want them to take action on it, or at the very least look at what was truly causing the anxiety and have some influence over that so they can become more influential in their lives. This is about us becoming more influential in our lives by seeing anxiety for what it is. It's a signal that this lower 20% of the brain has produced a certain chemical reaction. Good information, because if that chemical reaction isn't serving us, we want to be able to shift to the upper 80% of the brain, produce different chemicals, and the way we do that is look at our perceptions, our interpretations, our expectations. I'm now calling that the pi effect. Perceptions, interpretations, expectations. Because what I've discovered is those are what causes how we feel, what we do, and influences our experience of life. So for those of you who want to have the most influence possible over your experience of life, you want to influence your pi, your perspectives, your interpretations, and your expectations. I'm going to have more about this in the future, but in general, I hope you found this valuable because I want to make sure I'm bringing you new information. This information that I'm talking about in terms of how the brain processes information comes from my philosophy, Life from the Top of the Mind. I have a book on that. I go out and speak on that, do seminars on that, and I also use it in my counseling, my work as a psychologist, and as a life coach. So if you would like for me to come and create a presentation to your organization about this new perspective, about how to access your best by accessing a very specific part of the brain, and how to avoid the anxiety, stress, frustration, resentment, anger that often gets in the way of us bringing our best to life by steering away from a specific part of the brain, you can let me know. Go to my website, Bill Crawford, Ph.D.com, hit the contact button, and I would be happy to discuss this with you. On that site, you can also sign up for my weekly email, because each week I will send out one of these short videos along with a new quote of mine and 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply that to life. It's free. You can sign up by hitting the subscribe button on my website. I hope you found this valuable. It's certainly fun for me. Here is to you, bringing more clarity, confidence, and creativity to everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.